Howdy mates, good afternoon. Here's a part 3 video over at the Myakka River State Park. It looks like this portion of the trail has finally reopened since Hurricane Ian's wrath has occurred, but you can see some of the consequences of what has happened since the hurricane. You know, we've got this majestic live oak that has basically toppled over. You see, even with the extensive root system that may be present with a live oak, with the soil being so loose and sandy the way it is, it makes it much easier for trees to topple over. But a big question and partial myth that is apparently used for navigation in nature is the statement that moss always grows on the north side of a palm, as you can see here. You see, that is partially correct, but the thing is, if you were to rely specifically on that fact, you would still most likely get lost. So, what I'm trying to say is, it's true up to an extent, but you can't entirely rely on that either. Moss is a great example of a nonvascular plant. So they still reproduce by seeds, because they do indeed have little sprouts. But the thing is, since they are non-vascular, that means they do not really have a root system whatsoever. Instead, you could say in a sense, they kind of siphon onto a surface. And they're one of the only few types of plants that can really grow on a vertical structure, whereas most plants, it needs to be horizontal. But the thing is, moss, in general, as long as it has the right conditions, it can pretty much grow on any side of a tree or even a palm, even rocks. So, that being said, yeah, just look at that. It literally has a texture of a mat or a rug. It's so neat. But the point is, moss tends to like wet and shaded environments. So oftentimes, you know, in the northern hemisphere, it usually is bound that the north side of a tree or a palm will have a little more shade, and vice versa in the southern hemisphere. And the thing is, it can vary so much depending on the elevation. It's a big factor. But given that we are mostly in a very flat topography, and it's very humid here, it will appear that the moss will appear, or that the moss will look like it is facing more northward. But it just really depends on where you're at, really. So, Florida may support that fact, but if you go to other parts of the northern hemisphere, that doesn't necessarily hold true. So, a couple of people have taught that particular fact, but the thing is, it's true up to an extent. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that it's completely false by any means, but if you're trying to navigate, I would say definitely have a compass if you can. or even follow the path of where the sun is going. Like for example, just based on the position of the sun right now, as we're starting to approach towards dusk, you can say that the sun, in this case, is, the direction we're facing is a bit more westward. And there is some neat tricks too that you can use if, like, you look at your pointing finger up close. I think, one finger, the width can represent 15 minutes. So if you say go here on this part and then you go down another section, that's a half hour. So that's, you can even use your fingers as a means of knowing when a sunset may happen. Of course, it may not be exact, but it can be somewhat close. But that's really the point that I wanted to make in this video. Moss is really a unique plant, and the best thing is, even though it may be growing on different surfaces, they're not necessarily acting as a parasite. Most of their reproduction is possible by water. And so any weathered material, that is really their means of basically providing for their growth and nutrients. So essentially, they're not really a nuisance whatsoever. So, alrighty. Take care, you guys. Enjoy your Sunday. And Journey on a Journey is once again onwards. Take care, folks. See ya.